There he is from the sheet, our pal, Jeff Marek. Good day, Jeff. Happy final day of 2024.
Yes, indeed. Okay, I got beef.
Oh.
I got beef. I want to start off with some beef here.
Oh.
Cami, I'm looking your direction.
Oh.
All right? Right here, Cami. Right here. Look in my eyes. Look deeply. Look richly.
I'm going to go cockeyed trying to look at the camera and the monitor here. My eyes are just going to split.
Okay, so Saturday, I get back from the Canadian Tire Center, and I'm watching the early game on Hockey Night. Then I'm watching the late game, so I want to see the Flames, and I want to see the San Jose Sharks and see what Celebrini can do, and Askarov is putting on a performance. But Dustin Wolf is just that one puck better than Askarov was that night. He's fantastic again, wash, rinse, repeat. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch Afterburner as well. I want to see Pike. I want to see Cami. This is great. Get in there a little bit early as they're gathering their notes. So I'm just hanging out in the chat a little bit, talking to people. Cami hops on there and makes some crack about catfishing. First of all, who's going to catfish with my name?
I did see that too.
It's a star-studded chat, Jeff. It's star-studded. We have Daryl popping in. We have Bradshaw living on the regular.
See, I love that, but man, aim higher, Cami. Holy smokes! Pick someone a little bit more profile. I was very flattered. Oh my goodness, Cami, but it's seriously. Come on.
I have the pleasure of
age it up a bit.
I'm just going to start catfishing you on your own show. I'm going to hop in the chat on the sheet.
That's fine. We're there today, 3:00 Eastern, noon Pacific, 1 your time. Hop in.
I book and organize Afterburner in terms of who's hosting it and making sure everyone's ready to go. So I'll check in regularly. And yeah, there's a lot of aliases in the chat, as well as not the people they're pretending to be. So I did see the Jeff Marek the other night, and I'm like, maybe.
It's like that great. It was like that great scene in Untouchables when Kevin Costner says to Sean Connery something about you're some kind of financial agent, and he said, how should I know that? And Sean Connery says in a great line, who would claim to be that who was not? I.e., if I was going to big up a profile, I'd big up something a little bit more than that. Anyway, how's everyone doing today?
We're good. It's a big sports day out here. Obviously, yes. Flames and Canucks. I don't know that there's a better time to play the Vancouver Canucks than right now with the alleged infighting, all the injuries, the not exactly a monster vote of confidence from the GM. And then we're just chatting with Cami about the World Juniors after, offensive struggles from Team Canada. They get a really good squad in the Americans tonight. If you want to wash away the pain of the Latvia loss, tonight's your chance. So take that where you want.
Okay, so a couple of things here. So I think, we're all eyeballs on this one. This is the annual great, the one that everybody looks forward to. I still maintained, even though it was a Canada loss, the best U.S.-Canada New Year's Eve game I think we've all seen is Orchard Park 2017, where USA wore those great football jerseys. It looks so cool. But here comes another installment, and I think both fan bases are, and rightfully so, nervous. When's the last time we saw Canada and the USA going into this game and both teams had as many question marks as these two teams do? And essentially it breaks down to this. Canada can't score, USA can't defend, and Trey Augustine all of a sudden can't catch a puck anymore. Which fan base is more anxious? Which fan base is doing the Lady Macbeth, rubbing their hands out damn spot, up and down the hall? Which team slept last night? I would imagine neither. Because both these teams, through a few games here, all of their flaws have been exposed and been exposed quickly. And I'll go you one better. So Friday night, I'm at that Canada-Latvia game, and they scored in the shootout, and it's stunned silence. It's pin drop silence. And then the next day, USA faces off against Latvia. I mean, the Latvians are going on fumes. I mean, that emotional high, completely spent, have to rev it up again, and the United States takes care of them. But the thing that I do wonder about that is, if Latvia had a day off, would it have been a closer game? And could Latvia have actually won, knowing now what we know about the United States and where you can expose them? Now, Latvia is not loaded with superstars. Latvia is not loaded with, elite level prospects or top 10 draft picks, but they do play as a team. They defend really well. They'll block every shot that comes their direction. And as we've seen with their goaltender, he can stop everything. If I do, and there's no answer to this one, but I just do wonder if there was a day in between, what would that USA Latvia game have looked like? Because USA was picking apart a tired team. Make no mistake about it.
if
This
it was
is a
something
Jeff
more
Marek.
like a playoff kind of format, because if you look at it in a bubble, Stanley Cup playoffs also kind of a long, short tournament, if that makes sense. Sometimes you just need to capture lightning in a bottle, and it looks like Latvia could be capable of doing that.
You know what? I love it too, Cami, because, and I've long maintained this, I love Latvian hockey fans. Canadian hockey fans are wonderful. American hockey fans, there is nothing like Latvian hockey fans.
Yeah.
You see the World Championships every year. You see the World Juniors. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's not as, I don't want to insult them or sound patronizing, but I don't really think they care who wins or loses. They just go to these tournaments. And no, I'm serious though. But it's actually a compliment, because they just go to celebrate being at an event and cheering on their team, and whatever they do, it doesn't matter. There's not going to be, pages on pages written about, tearing kids down and tearing teams apart. It's like when you think of all the things we talk about celebrating hockey and the joy of the game, and you're always a kid when you play, like the Latvian hockey fans demonstrate that on a consistent basis. Whenever I do like a speaking event, I always close with one little saying, trust me, hockey moms love this one. But I really the Latvians capture it. And the little story goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a little boy who walked up to his mom and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a hockey player." His mother smiled at her son, looked down and said, "Son, that's great, but you can't do both. You're always a kid when you play hockey. There's no such thing as growing up and being a hockey player." Latvian fans get that. It's hockey. It's a game. Let's be happy. I mean, are there expectations? Sure. But when you look at sense of priority and having, everything in its right place, it's the Latvians. That's why at the end of that game, I was really happy to see, as a lot of Canadian hockey fans exited the Canadian Tire Center, there were a lot of Canadian hockey fans that made their way down around, all the way around the glass. And after the Latvians did the big celebration, and they went over to the corner where a lot of the Latvian parents were and did the, stick taps and banging on the glass, all along the glass were Canadian hockey fans applauding, because they understood the moment. They understood what that meant for that team and how that team pushed their team and how that made their team better. Whether it was a loss or not, I was really happy to see that many Canadian jerseys applauding the Latvians. Like a sense of hope and optimism heading into 2025, guys. That's what I took away from it on Friday night.
Yeah, look, I was there. I think it was 2005. They hosted the Worlds, and I happened to be traveling the country that year. Yeah. Like, they love hockey. There's a lot of countries in Europe where they love hockey, but it's like, there's soccer too. I'd put Sweden and Czech Republic in that category. And Russia loves hockey, but there's lots of other sports that are big. Yeah. It is number one with a bullet in Latvia. I don't know that there's a country per capita that cares more about hockey than Latvia, but they also understand where they are in the hierarchy. Sometimes they're in the qualification pool. Sometimes they're in the A pool. Yeah. They know they're not one of the great 6 nations or 5 or whatever we're counting with Russia out. I mean, they're trying to become one. So when they're not
intimidated. Can I just add one thing? They're not intimidated by it.
No, but they're not, again, to your point, if they lose, it's not like the tournament's a failure. They understand they're underdogs most of these games, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And not to say, everything is a bonus for them, but it kind of, in a way, it is right now. Like, there isn't the weight of expectation. I mean, geez, think of all these Canadian kids and trying, good luck going to bed every night. And the same thing for the Americans as well. Like, the Canadians skate with a burden, and that is the burden of gold or bust. Man, that's a lot to put on anybody, let alone a bunch of 19-year-old kids. The Latvians, they don't skate with that, and I think there's a real lesson there. Like, I know that we've sort of blown this tournament up and made it a big deal and wrapped it in a Canadian flag and poured maple syrup all over it. And this is part of who we are as people somehow. I never understood that, but Latvians have a good sense of, this is a development tournament. The kids are having fun. The kids are getting better. They're playing games against people we're going to watch in the NHL, and I don't know if we're ever going to see Eric Smateko again. I think he'll probably play some in the NHL, but that might be his greatest moment ever in hockey, and I think they all understand that.
So many of these kids are never going to see an NHL game. That's why it's so important to them. Like, someone get down to the Saddle Dome and ask Teddy Bluegers what he thinks of all this.
Oh, yeah.
Pride of Riga right there.
So, you know what? It's interesting to that you mentioned, like, this might be the last hurrah of big time hockey for a lot of these players. I have a theory. Okay, I have a theory. So my theory is this is the last time where there's a little bit of innocence still. That it's not all the business. You turn pro and it's the business of hockey, the business of hockey, the business of hockey, the drama, the pressure, the stress, the expectation, all of it. For these kids and playing in, listen, you guys know the Western Hockey League well, playing in the Western Hockey League, for these kids, like there's still an innocence about it. And hockey's, for lack of a better way to put it, guys, hockey's still fun. But there's a part of it that's still fun. And this is why I still maintain that this is why NHLers who are financially successful, a lot of them want to go back and buy junior teams because it reminds them of when hockey was just fun, where you went to school, you went to the rink, and you just played. And that was it. There was no, I got to call my agent every day, and I can't sleep, and I have anxiety, and coach won't talk to me, and I'm off the power play. There's none of that. It's just still fun. And I think the World Juniors for a lot of these kids, Cami, to your point, this is maybe the biggest stage they'll ever play on. And for a lot of these kids, this is the last time where there's an element, and I know it's still business too, there's an element where it's still just hockey fun. Does that make sense? Or am I reaching for something that's not there?
I think for some of the teams, for Canada, I don't know about that because I honestly feel like if you make your NHL debut and you kind of mess it up, you make a really bad turnover that maybe leads to a really good scoring chance or a goal, people are going to give you some grace on that. Canada loses, like they had to make a commercial a few years ago about cyberbullying because people online are trying to eviscerate these kids. And I'm like, frankly, take swipes at the multimillionaires and the pros all you want. These are children.
And let me add another layer to that. I was having this conversation with Pierre McGuire yesterday on the show. And you think of how many players this tournament has made. And I mean, how much of a bigger star was Jordan Eberle after the last Ottawa tournament in 2009, back when he was playing with the Regina Pats. But you look at how many players this tournament in some ways has ruined. And I think of Mark Byzantine in 2010, Canada versus Russia, going into the third period, up, was it 2 goals or 3 goals in the Buffalo tournament? And all of a sudden, Tarasenko turns it on, Panarin turns it on. And what happened to Mark Byzantine? First-round draft pick, Phoenix Coyotes, the next great goaltender for Canada, was poised to be a great prospect in the NHL. He played 1 game. Think of what this tournament did to Maxime Comtois when Canada flamed out again. Like there is a list here of players that have been at least a little bit psychologically damaged if they don't
win. From not making the team.
From getting cut as well. That's why, and I'll tell you what, like there are players. I know that I don't think he'd mind if I mention this. I know that Tyler Seguin will call players who get cut. Because he got cut. He went on to make like $100 million in the NHL. He second overall draft picks. They're still making large money. Rehabbing his knee right now. Made a lot of money. He won a Stanley Cup. Like he's done a lot of things internationally. He's done a lot of things. But he was cut from the World Juniors. It might have been Dave Cameron actually. Now that I mention it, but he's been known to call players that get cut. Say, hey, look, like this isn't the end of the road. Yeah. I've won Stanley Cup. I've done all these things. I've made tons of money. I've cemented my reputation, started my life and family and all of that. Don't think that this is the end for you. I don't think that Tyler Seguin is the only one who does that, but I know that Seguin will for sure. I mean, that's the kind of person that he is to begin with, because I think he can relate to that. Like he was a super high-end guy that got cut from the World Juniors once upon a time. Not the end of the road.
If I can jump in there, you asked, who's more pressure on, the Americans, the Canadians? It's always the Canadians in my mind. Until this tournament matters a fraction of what it means in Canada and the States, it won't be anyone but Canada that plays with more pressure. And then you talk about, okay, Cami's noted they're struggling to score. Fact. Yep. Now you're talking about high skill guys being left out of the tournament. Okay. I mean, you don't have to tell Calgary Flames fans when Zane Perrick's not there and you watch a power play that doesn't operate well. And it's like, oh, well, there's the other end of the rink too. It's like, oh, that end of the rink that he won a Memorial Cup in and led the OHL in scoring with 96 points. Like, where are you at on the roster build? Are we full Rob Zamner here? Is this a very logical build? Because you do have to be a prospect nerd / guru to be able to say too much of this, not enough of that. Or no, this is a normal team that's just going through a scoring issue right now.
Before I answer your question, can I ask you guys something? Are you like me? Do you feel bad for Rob Zamner? He's always held up as the, are we Rob Zamner?
Yes.
Like,
well,
I mean, the guy.
He could have been the original John Scott if there was social media. He could have been the original John Scott.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Rob Zamner got to go to the Olympics, Jeff.
Yes,
so
I know.
If Rob Zamner wants to trade that for being the poster boy of shouldn't go to the Olympics, that's up to him.
So you know what? This is a really good question, Brian. So somewhere along, like so Canada wins gold in Salt Lake, double gold in Salt Lake. On the men's side in Italy, it's a flame out, right? And this is again back to like Rob Zamner construction. Sorry, Rob Zamner, wherever you are, again, we're holding you up as an example. And so Hockey Canada philosophically changes how they construct teams. It was less, this is what the first line does, this is what the second line does, this is what the third line does, first pair, second pair, third pair, etc. And it became one philosophy. There was one thing that Canada did, like when they made their teams, they asked themselves, they said one thing to themselves, and that is skill adapts. 2 words, skill adapts. And the philosophy changed from build an NHL style team to compete to pick the best players. And the best players have the skill to adapt. You're a first line player on your NHL team, that's fine. You're a skilled player, you can do what a fourth liner does in certain situations, right? I think everybody understands that. And it had been a bonanza for Canada ever since. Somehow, for this team, that changed. Like there are a lot of really good players, bottom end players on this team that are great with their junior squads. But when you're leaving off, like to your point, Zane Parekh, and you're leaving off, Michael Misa is another sort of flashpoint. Beckett Seneca as well, Carter Yakimchuk. There's a lot of sort of question marks here where you say, well, hold on a second. If the motto is skill adapts, these guys have tons more skill than the players that were like. I'm very curious whether this was a deliberate break from the skill adapts recent tradition of Hockey Canada, whether it's a one-off or this is a new way to decide how we're constructing teams in Canada.
Well, and I had talked to some people that are familiar with Hockey Canada that work in NHL circles, and they said this isn't new for the last few World Juniors. It's just that, last year was disappointing. They didn't score enough, and you could have made the case they didn't bring their most skilled guys. They tried to build a team. And prior to that, you were just riding Bedard tournaments, and he was sensational.
Yeah.
So this isn't...
And Fantilli too.
Sure, but point being that you had superstars that were going to get you over. And maybe McKenna can be that in this tournament, but gosh, that's a lot to ask for a guy that's not draft eligible for another year and a half.
Yeah, he's going about 12 minutes of ice time right now, other than he really had his ice time cranked up against Latvia. But other than that, he's been around the 11 to 13 minute mark.
And so how did we get...
Love seeing him with Berkeley Catton, though. They've been fun to watch.
So how do we get from take your best, skill adapts? Like you can bring... Brad Marchand, he can play fourth line minutes. We know he can. Because I love that philosophy. And you watched it torpedo their chances in 98. And in 2006, they probably went a little too veteran heavy, which might have tied into that, build a roster rather than take the best.
Yeah.
How did we get here? Like, didn't we learn? Like, is it philosophical change at Hockey Canada? We've seen a lot of change there all of a sudden in the last 3-4 years.
I wonder if this is always sort of the default setting for Canadians, though. Don't just construct skilled roster. Oh, that's what the Europeans do. Oh, it's all skill, but here it's hard work and heaviness. And I mean, I'm reaching for this because I don't know. I'm just trying to cobble together some type of talk radio answer here for you. I really don't know. Like I'm legitimately baffled. And one other thing that baffles me as well is the idea of, and we see this with Canada on the men's side. We'll see it at the Four Nations too. I like the idea of putting successful pairs together. Easier on the blue line, and we see Taves and McCargan will play together at the Four Nations for Canada. But, you have, on this Brampton Steelheads team, Porter Martone and Carson Raykop playing together, and they score like 1 billion goals together so far this season. Yet the only way Raykop can get in is if Porter Martone gets pulled out. When you're starved for goals, would you not, as your default, look at this and say, these guys seem to have something. Our guys seem to have nothing. Let's maybe put these two together for one of these games. Oh, I don't know, maybe like the Germany game and see what happens here. I don't know. Like the other part of me too, because listen, politics will always play a part of it, and that's why I applaud Pat Quinn for 2002, because he alienated himself from his goaltender. He really, really did, by trying to get Canada gold. I'm curious where you two are at on this one. The idea of CHL coaches that are coaching CHL teams, coaching Team Canada when they have players on that team. I'm not saying that Dave Cameron is overly biased towards Luca Pinelli and having him out there in as many situations as he is. I'm not saying that it doesn't even belong on the team. But from a perception point of view, you can look at that and say, is that not a conflict? Is that because we've seen it before where coaches will coach just so they don't lose the room when they go back to the Western League, the Ontario League, and the Quebec League. I'm not saying that we're there with Pinelli and Dave Cameron, but up and down Popcorn Row, I can assure you in Ottawa, that is part of the conversation.
Big one tonight. That's.
I can't wait.
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I noticed that, Cami.
No thanks.
Cami from the Western Hockey League, got any thoughts on that one there?
Yeah, exactly. But no, and this is what's
the only
beautiful
one
about
I've
this
seen up
tournament.
close is Chris Millette, and everyone got plenty of playing time at the CHL USA Prospect Challenge. Thank you.
That was listen. Everyone was really thrilled for him, and especially at the announcement as well. Was it on day 2 of that one? So. Go Kelowna. Very much looking forward to visiting one of my favorite places in the country.
That'll be good.
I think
That's
no matter what
city.
happens, no matter who wins, they need to have a pontoon boat at the ready to take the winning team. Like, don't even take your skates off. Just slap the guards on, get out of that rink, get down to the lake, and take the Mem Cup for a little spin. End up at Earl's.
Been done.
I do like that, or if it was in Red Deer, just hit up Sylvan Lake and then end up at what's the name of the place that Colby Armstrong took us? Chiefs at Sylvan Lake. That's where all the Red Deer Rebels players used to go.
Then you could go to Peter's and make them make a milkshake in it. Perfect.
Canucks. Where are you at on Vancouver? Because that's the Flame seat tonight. A lot of people watching will be heading to the game tonight, tuning in before their New Year's festivities tonight. My view of it is, look, for everything that's gone wrong, there they are still in a playoff spot. And when everyone gets healthy and theoretically could get on the same page, look out. But the longer we keep talking about all that happening means the further you've gone without it happening yet. And now all of a sudden you're looking at some serious injuries. Like this either to me is galvanizing moment and we could do something crazy in the playoffs. And last year they almost beat the Oilers. They did it without their number one goalie. They didn't have Besser for game 7. They had a really good postseason in portions last year. But also this might just one of those lost years, maybe.
We know what this does. This cements that Quinn Hughes should be in the conversation for the Hart Trophy. This is a profoundly different looking team without Quinn Hughes in the lineup. It is night and day. We could talk about the Pettersson, JT Miller soap opera, and that's fine. And Besser scoring in the injury to Demko and like all the adversity that Vancouver's faced this season. You always look at, okay, who's the one player or what's the one situation that is going to be next to impossible to overcome? And it's become really, really obvious that this is a much different team without Quinn Hughes back there.
Yeah.
Now and then you can have a decent game without him, but like long haul, I don't want to say that they're doomed without Quinn Hughes. Sure feels like that watching him play though. Like no one can move the puck.
But why do we feel like this is so different from when McDavid goes down with an injury in Edmonton and you just see it totally galvanize Leon Draisaitl and he plays the best hockey you've seen from him all season? Why have we not seen that us against the world mentality with Vancouver where someone else is able to be
They don't have
guy?
a Draisaitl.
They don't have a Draisaitl. They don't have anyone on the blue line that can come anywhere close to doing what Quinn Hughes does. We would, Cami, to your point, we'd see this in Pittsburgh all the time, right? Crosby would be out with his injury, and all of a sudden Malkin. We saw this with Yzerman and Fedorov in Detroit for a lot of years too. So I know the point that you're getting at. Though the only issue is they just don't have anybody else,
especially on the blue line, right?
And they have no one else.
Yeah, I know Hronik's still not coming back till February or so.
No, he's still hurt. They're still looking for defensemen. They've got no one that can move the puck back there, and that's where it all starts for every team. Which is why, Rutherford and Alvin are beating the bushes trying to find someone else. that can shuttle the puck out of their own zone, either skate the puck out of their own zone, pass the puck out of their own zone. And defensively, he's like everything that you always appreciate something when it's gone. And Vancouver Canucks fans, I think the rest of the NHL will look at this casually and say, like, this is a profoundly different team. And Canucks fans will tell you, that's the one guy. That's the one guy that Vancouver can't afford to lose. And that's where, when Hronek first got injured, and I talked to Sakaris and Price, and I'd be like, what's Quinn Hughes going to look like by the end of the season? Like, he's playing like 30, 32 minutes a night. It's not as if he's 6'5", 225 pounds. Like, he's a slight guy, and they're just burning. Like, what's he going to have left by the end? And now that he's hurt, I don't want to say it's a complete disaster. There's still NHLers obviously on that team, but man, that hill just got steeper with Quinn Hughes out, and for as long as he may be out here, you just cross your fingers for the player and the team that he gets back to health sooner than later, so you can start playing him 32 minutes a night and then burn him out for the playoffs. Different team without Quinn Hughes. Completely different team.
And then you're also losing Pettersson to injury, but then Patrick Allvin comes out and says, trade's not off the table. What does that do to the temperature around the situation other than whipping everything into a fine meringue of drama?
I think everybody knows what the score is there. I think everybody knows that a lot of things are on the table. And I think that when Jim Rutherford's your general manager, I think you understand that, or he's technically not the general manager, but we all know how that relationship works. When Jim Rutherford's there making the phone calls, you know that anything could happen at any time, and that he likes to make his moves well in advance of trade deadline. That's how he won a Stanley Cup in 2006 with the Hurricanes. And I don't think that's law. I don't think that would surprise anybody. Like, put it this way, I don't think it's along the same lines as Chris Drury putting Chris Kreider's name on that memo, circulated to 31 teams, which completely lobbed a grenade into that room. Coupled with the Trouba situation and the Barclay Goodrow situation with San Jose and waivers back and forth. I think this one is different. I think that when Rutherford is running your team, I think everybody knows, because names have all been out there before. I mean, do you guys remember when Rutherford first took over? What's the first thing he said? We need cap space. And all of a sudden we're hearing like, oh, JT Miller's going to Pittsburgh, and Kapanen and Pettersson are coming back the other way. Like, Besser's going to go to Los Angeles, and Adrian Kempe's coming back. It's wild rumors, like all over, but right. But that's what happens because Jim Rutherford is not shy about the big deal. And if you're a struggling Vancouver Canucks team, you have to know that everything is on the table. I don't think that's a secret to anybody in that room. Unlike when Drury says, "Oh yeah, we get rid of Kreider. Oh, but yeah, you're struggling on the power play. We got a Kreider here for you." That one stunned the room. They were supposed to give him a jolt. Cameron, to your point, like, here's your jolt. Here's the shot in the arm. Let's get going here, boys. The opposite happened with New York, but I think it's sort of baked into the pie with the Canucks under Rutherford.
Any other hot spots out there, or trade rumors, positions of interest?
Dallas is going all in, and don't be surprised if it's Jim Rutherford and Craig Conroy talking again. I would not be surprised whatsoever. The Dallas Stars, Jim Nell going on. This is all in season. Like, put it this way, for the Dallas Stars, the feeling is this is the season, because the vets are aging out and the kids aren't quite ready yet to take over. So this is the season they're going for it. This is the one they're going to try to do this without letting go of Logan Stankoven. Liam Bichelle looks fantastic on that back end. Maverick Bourque, he's pretty already done everything that he needs to do at the American Hockey League level. So they're going to try to do all this without sacrificing one or two of those high-end prospects, but that's going to be really tough. But I would expect that the Dallas Stars, by the time the trade deadline is done, they may end up being the team that has the most prizes at the end of all of it. And don't forget too, with Tyler Seguin's situation and that money available, becomes that much more easy for Jim Nill to pull the trigger. So if I'm looking at one team to add, it's the Dallas Stars. But I think we're all looking at the New York Rangers now and saying, what's next? Like, they played really well last night. I gotta give it to them. I watched the game because I'm waiting for like the disaster, and Florida goes up 2 Cobb, and you're like, oh geez, here we go. But by the end of the game, you're saying, you know what, Bobrovsky's really keeping Florida in this one. The Rangers aren't quitting, and like they fought back. And I know it sounds condescending. It's like, oh, good try, guys, but it was a good try. Like, they played better and mind you, playing the defending Stanley Cup champions, they played better, but it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And Zibanejad is getting killed for that first goal on the blind pass in the defensive zone right to the points. Like, it was just bad. Like, Mika Zibanejad is trending in Canada. Okay, like Mika Zibanejad is trending on Twitter X in Canada. So, so you know it's not good. So I think we're all wondering, okay, what happens here? Is it the coach? Is it some of the players? Do they just ride this thing out all season long? We know this is not a very patient owner, which is the wild card in all of it. As much as we talk about Jim Rutherford can wake up every day and do something not insane, but do something huge. James Dolan can not just do something huge, but also can do something insane as well. So I think we're wondering about the Rangers, but the Rangers the other way as opposed to the Dallas Stars who'd be looking to add.
Their schedule's a nightmare. And where's the playoff probability meter for you? Are they like worse than a coin toss to get in right now? Because they're not that far out, but it's just a nightmare run they've got schedule wise, and clearly people don't like going to work. We saw it with the Daryl Sutter year that after the mass exodus where Gaudreau and Kachuk left, like that was a group that didn't like being together, and that's kind of what the Rangers are starting to look like.
And they're 7 points back of Ottawa for the second wild card right now. Okay,
you want some context for this?
Let's go.
Let's let the gravity of this sink in. Let me grab my skid here right in front of me. Today, the Buffalo Sabres played the Dallas Stars. It's a tough game for the Buffalo Sabres. Tough game for the Swords, although they've won 3 games in a row. If Buffalo wins tonight, they jump over the New York Rangers.
They just lost 13 in a row.
After everything we've said about the Buffalo Sabres this season.
Oh my God.
If they win tonight, they jump over the New York Rangers. Just allow the gravity of that to sink in for all your listeners and viewers for 1 second.
How do the Sabres also already have a better goal differential than the Rangers right now?
It just keeps adding up, Cami. Keep going. Don't stop now. Don't put any speed bumps in front of Cami. She can just keep going. I know. It's like it's
a trifle of crap.
Over and over and over and over and over. It's just like you just start at a certain point. Like we started feeling sorry for the Buffalo Sabres. I think legitimately because it's been 13 seasons of futility there, 14 seasons of futility. I don't know that anyone feels sorry for New York because it's New York. Just like no one's going to feel sorry for Toronto because it's Toronto. But are we getting to the point where we're starting to feel bad about the Rangers? Or have they kind of brought this on themselves?
Nope, this is Crazy James Dolan. Him and his shitty cover band. This is what you deserve. We're making our ears bleed, you asshat. Okay, that's my tangent. Jeff, tell us what's coming up on the sheet today. Let's get you out of here before you get canceled for my comments.
Oh, no problem. Listen, I was putting Cami in a hot spot a couple of seconds ago talking about CHL coaches, but I digress. So sheet today. So we're going to open up with Cam Robinson's going to stop by. We'll preview tonight's matchup from Elite Prospects. You guys know him. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. We'll do sort of New Year's predictions, what we see happening along the way here in the next few months. And who are we kicking the show off with today? Today we're kicking the show.
It's going to be embarrassing now.
I know.
Oh, Wayne Gretzky. Whoops. How did I?
No. Who are we kicking the show off with today? Hang on. Give me 2 seconds. Let me get. Where's my producer note? Johnny Lazarus on the Winter Classic. So Laz is up for Morning Cup of Hockey. Yeah, there we go. And Bill me on that one. So 3 guests today. So Laz is coming up, Wish is coming up, and Cam Robinson's coming up.
Just great to see Chicago finally get an outdoor game. Good stuff. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Warms. I mean, how many is it now for Chicago? It's kind of embarrassing. Although James Van Riemsdyk's been in the most. I think he's been in 8. Yeah, Van Riemsdyk's been in 8 of these things.
Wild.
Okay.
He's played on more NHL outdoor games than a lot of kids actually play outdoors now.
Yes, these days, He's probably played more outdoor games than he's wore 3rd jerseys, which should be saying something today's
Very true.
Have fun on the show today.
Thank you. I'll try to
appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll be watching. And if we don't see you until next year, have a great night.
You guys as well. And I will be sure to be. What are you fake catfishing? Pretending to be me on the chat, Cami.
Verified.
How would you frame that? Okay, all right, very good. Ryan, Cami, thanks so much for having me on. To your listeners and viewers, all the best, the health and happiness in 2025. You guys be well.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's Jeff Marek of The Sheet. 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 Mountain. Did I get that right? I think that's right. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.